The morning sun rose over the colony of 7, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a beautiful day, the kind of day that made the human settlers forget they lived on a planet far from Earth. Children played in the streets of the main city. Farmers worked in the fields outside the walls. Traders prepared their shops for another busy day. Commander Ho stood on the balcony of the military station, drinking his morning coffee. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a calm voice. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, but this post on 7 was supposed to be peaceful. The colony was a trading hub, not a military target. At least, that was what everyone believed. Worked in the medical center across the street. She was a skilled doctor who had left Earth to help the colonists. She loved her work and the people she served. That morning, she was treating a young boy who had fallen from a tree. The boy laughed as she put a bandage on his knee. "You need to be more careful," said with a smile. "Trees are not for climbing." "But the view is so good from up there," the boy replied. Shook her head and sent him home. She had no idea that in less than an hour, her world would change forever. High above the planet, a massive fleet emerged from hyperspace. The ships were dark and angular, covered in strange symbols that glowed with purple light. These were the warships of the Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. There were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. They believed themselves to be the superior race, and they looked down on all others. Fleet Commander stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the human colony below. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The humans were weak creatures. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no venom. They were soft and fragile. They had studied them for years and found nothing impressive. Just traders and farmers who spread across the galaxy like insects. "Commander," one of his officers said, "the humans have detected our fleet. They are sending a communication request." Laughed, "Ignore it, begin the attack." The first missiles struck the colony without warning. Buildings exploded into flames. Streets cracked and broke apart. The beautiful morning turned into a nightmare of fire and smoke. People screamed and ran in every direction, but there was nowhere to hide. Ho dropped his coffee cup and ran inside the military station. Alarms filled the air. Soldiers rushed to their positions, but they were not prepared for this. The colony had only a small defense force, meant for pirates and criminals, not a full imperial fleet. "Get everyone to the shelters," Ho shouted. "Move, move." He grabbed his weapon and ran outside. The sky was filled with enemy ships, raining fire on the city. He saw a family trapped under fallen debris and rushed to help them. With all his strength, he lifted the heavy stones and pulled them free. "Go to the shelter," he ordered. "Run and don't look back." Across the city, rushed out of the medical center. The building next to hers had collapsed. She could hear people crying for help inside. Without thinking, she ran into the smoke and dust, searching for survivors. She found a young woman with a broken leg and carried her out. Then she went back for more. Again and again, she entered the destroyed buildings, saving as many as she could. Her white coat turned black with ash and red with blood. The ground troops landed in the central square. They moved through the streets, shooting at anyone they saw. They did not care if their targets were soldiers or civilians, adults or children. To them, humans were nothing more than animals to be removed. Ho gathered what soldiers he could find and tried to fight back. They took positions behind broken walls and fired at the enemy, but there were too many and too strong. For everyone they killed, 10 more appeared. "We can't hold them," one of his soldiers shouted. "We have to try," Ho replied. "We have to give the civilians time to escape." He watched as his men fell one by one. Young soldiers who had families, dreams, and hopes. They died protecting strangers, fighting an enemy they could not defeat. Ho felt anger burn in his chest, hotter than any fire around him. Reached the shelter with a group of survivors. Inside, hundreds of people huddled together in fear. Children cried for their parents. The wounded groaned in pain, immediately began treating the injured, using whatever supplies she could find. An old man grabbed her arm. "Why?" he asked, tears streaming down his face. "Why are they doing this to us?" Had no answer. She just held his hand and tried to comfort him. Outside, the battle ended quickly. The human defenders were overwhelmed. Ho was the last one standing in his area. He killed 3 more soldiers before a blast knocked him to the ground. He lay in the dirt, bleeding and broken, watching the enemy walk past him. They did not even bother to finish him off. He was not worth the effort. Fleet Commander landed in the city square and looked around at the destruction with satisfaction. His troops had killed thousands of humans in less than 2 hours. The colony was in ruins. The survivors were hiding like rats in their holes. "Record this," ordered. "Send it to every corner of the galaxy. Let everyone see what happens when you stand in the way of the Empire." The recording showed the burning city, the dead bodies, and the flag rising over the ruins. Spoke directly to the camera, his voice cold and proud. "Humans of Earth, we have taken your colony. Your people are dead. Your buildings are destroyed. This is a warning to you and to all species who think they can challenge us. The Empire is supreme. Surrender now or face the same fate." The message spread across the galaxy in minutes. Every species, every planet, every station received it. They watched in horror and fear. They had attacked an innocent colony without warning or reason. They had murdered thousands of defenseless people. But the reaction they expected did not come. The humans did not beg for mercy. They did not offer surrender. Earth sent no response at all. Ho was found by a rescue team and brought to the shelter, treated his wounds, working through the night to save his life. He woke up 3 days later, weak but alive. The first thing he asked was about his soldiers. Looked at him with sad eyes. "You are the only one who survived." Ho closed his eyes. The faces of his fallen men appeared in his mind. Young faces, brave faces, dead faces. He made a silent promise to them. He would not rest until justice was served, until every paid for what they had done. In the darkness of the shelter, surrounded by the wounded and the mourning, a fire began to burn. It was small at first, just a spark of anger and grief. But it would grow. It would spread. And when it finally exploded, the galaxy would never forget. They had made a terrible mistake. They had poked a sleeping giant. And now, that giant was waking up. The galaxy waited for Earth's response. Every species expected the humans to surrender. After all, what choice did they have? The Empire was one of the most powerful forces in known space. Their fleet was massive. Their technology was advanced. Their soldiers were ruthless. No one had ever defeated them in open war. Days passed, then weeks. Earth said nothing. The fleet commander received reports from his spies across the galaxy. The humans were not sending diplomats. They were not preparing surrender documents. They were not even talking to their allies. Every human communication channel had gone dark. "What are they doing?" asked his intelligence officer. "We do not know, Commander. Our spies report that all human military bases have increased their security. No one is allowed in or out. Their civilian ships have been recalled to Earth space. Beyond that, we have no information." Felt something he had not felt in a long time. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was fear, but he pushed it down and laughed. "They are scared," he said. "They are hiding. Let them. We will find them and destroy them when we are ready." But deep inside, a small voice whispered that something was wrong. On 7, the survivors lived in the underground shelters. They had left a small occupation force on the planet, but they mostly stayed in the ruined city above. They did not bother to search for the humans hiding below. Why would they? The humans were defeated, broken, no threat at all. Captain led the survivors. She was a stern woman in her 40s with short gray hair and sharp eyes. Before the attack, she had commanded the colony's small security force. Now, she commanded the resistance. "We have 300 survivors," reported to the group leaders. 40 of them are trained soldiers. The rest are civilians. We have limited food, limited water, and limited medical supplies. "What do we do?" someone asked. Looked at them with steady eyes. "We survive, we wait, and when our people come for us, we will be ready to fight." Ho was one of the 40 soldiers. His wounds had healed, but the scars remained, not just on his body but in his heart. He spent his days training the civilians who wanted to fight. He taught them how to hold a weapon, how to move quietly, how to strike fast and disappear. Continued her work as a doctor. She saved lives with whatever she could find. Sometimes it was proper medicine. Sometimes it was herbs from the underground gardens. Sometimes it was just hope. One night called Ho to private meeting. "I received a message," she said quietly, "from Earth." Ho felt his heart beat faster. What did it say? Smiled for the first time since the attack. "Help is coming. We just need to hold on a little longer." Far away, in the darkness of deep space, something massive was moving. The United Earth Fleet had been gathering for weeks, hidden in a region of space that no alien had ever mapped. Ships came from every human colony, every military base, every secret facility that the galaxy did not know existed. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of the flagship, the UES Retribution. She was a legend among human soldiers. She had fought in a dozen campaigns and never lost a battle. Her white hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her eyes were cold as steel. "Status report," she commanded. "Admiral, all ships have arrived. We have 2,700 warships ready for battle, another 500 support vessels. The fleet is at full strength." Sora nodded. She had spent her entire career preparing for a day like this. Not because she wanted war, but because she knew it would come eventually. The galaxy was full of species who saw humans as weak, who looked at their soft bodies and kind hearts and thought they were easy targets. They were wrong. The Emperor sat on his throne and watched the reports with growing concern. His spies had lost contact with their agents in human space. His scouts had disappeared near the border. And still, Earth was silent. "What are they planning?" he demanded. His advisors had no answers. They had studied humans for decades. They knew about their history of war and violence. They knew about the weapons they had used on each other in the past. But they had always believed that humans had become peaceful, that they had evolved beyond their savage nature. Perhaps they were wrong. Meanwhile, the other species of the galaxy watched and waited. And dozens of others. They had all dealt with humans before, traded with them, worked with them. Some had even become friends with them. Ambassador of the spoke to his council. "We have known the humans for 50 years. They are not like other species. They do not fight for territory or resources. They fight for something else." "What?" a council member asked. His voice was grave. "They fight for each other. Hurt one human and you hurt them all. Kill one human and they all want revenge. They did not just attack a colony. They attacked a family. And humans will do anything to protect their family." Back on 7, Ho stood guard at the entrance to the shelter. The night was cold and dark. Above him, patrol ships flew in lazy circles, their lights cutting through the darkness. A young man named Ho came to stand beside him. Ho had been a farmer before the attack. Now he was a soldier. "Do you think they will really come for us?" Ho asked. Ho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, his people were preparing. He could feel it in his bones. "They will come," he said. "And when they do, they will learn what it means to make humans angry." Ho nodded. "I lost my wife in the attack, my daughter. I have nothing left except this." He held up his weapon. "I want to fight. I want to make them pay." Ho put a hand on his shoulder. "You will get your chance, I promise." In the shelter below sat with the children. They were scared and confused. Many had lost their parents. She told them stories about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about the cities that reached into the sky, about the people who would come to save them. "Earth is far away," a little girl said. "How will they know we need help?" Smiled gently. "Humans always know when their family is in trouble. No matter how far away we are, we never forget each other. That is what makes us strong." The little girl hugged her tight. "I want to go home." "You will," whispered, "soon." In the deep darkness of space, Admiral Sora gave the order. 2,700 warships activated their engines. The fleet moved as one, a wave of steel and fire heading toward space. "Send a message to Earth Command," Sora said. "Tell them the silence is over." She looked at the stars ahead where her enemy waited. Her face showed no emotion, but her heart burned with purpose. "They wanted to see what humans are capable of," she said quietly. "We are about to show them." The galaxy held its breath. The silence was ending, and what came next would change everything. The humans were coming, and they were not coming to talk. The first warning came from a scout ship on the edge of their territory. The pilot had been bored, flying his routine patrol through empty space. Nothing ever happened out here. Then his sensors detected something. He looked at his screen and felt his blood turn cold. "Command, this is Scout 7, he reported, his voice shaking. "I am detecting multiple contacts, thousands of them. They are coming from human space." "Scout 7, confirm your reading. Thousands seems impossible." The pilot checked his sensors again. The numbers kept climbing. His hands trembled as he counted. "Command, I confirm, I count. I count over 3,000 ships. They are moving fast, very fast." There was silence on the other end. Then a different voice came through. It was Fleet Commander himself. "Scout 7, you will hold your position and continue reporting. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." The pilot watched as the human fleet grew closer. The ships were of all sizes. Some were small and fast. Others were massive, bigger than anything he had ever seen. They moved in perfect formation, like a pack of predators hunting their prey. "Command," the pilot whispered, "I think they are angry." Those were his last words. A human destroyer spotted his ship and eliminated it with a single shot. The scout vanished in a flash of light. The Emperor received the news with disbelief. 3,000 ships. The humans were supposed to have a small defense force, a few hundred ships at most. Where had this fleet come from? "Mobilize everything," he ordered. "Every ship, every soldier, we will crush them." But even as he gave the command, doubt crept into his heart. He had seen the recordings from 7. He had watched his soldiers kill helpless civilians. He had laughed at their weakness. Now he was not laughing anymore. Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the enemy territory approach. Her fleet had traveled for weeks in complete silence. No communications, no signals, nothing that could warn the enemy of their approach. Now the silence was over. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, we are here. They are mobilizing their fleet." "How many ships do they have?" "Our intelligence suggests approximately 800 warships in this sector. Another 500 scattered across their territory." Sora nodded. They had more experience, more advanced shields, and better weapons. But they had never faced an enemy like this. They had never faced humans who had nothing left to lose. "All ships, this is Admiral Sora," she broadcast to her fleet. "You all know why we are here. They attacked our colony without warning. They murdered our people, our families, our children. They thought we were weak. They thought we would run and hide." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today we show them how wrong they were. Today we teach the galaxy a lesson they will never forget. No one attacks humanity. No one hurts our people. No one escapes our justice. All ships prepare for battle." 2,700 voices responded as one. "Yes, Admiral." The fleet gathered near there. Fleet Commander stood on his flagship, watching the human fleet approach on his screens. He had fought many battles in his life. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. "How many ships?" he asked again. "Over 3,000, Commander. They outnumber us 4-1. Clenched his four fists. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be weak. Where had they hidden this power? How had his spies missed this? "It does not matter," he said, more to himself than his crew. "We have better technology, better shields, better weapons. We will defeat them." But when he looked at his officers, he saw fear in their eyes. They had seen the human ships. They were not the small, weak vessels they had expected. These were warships built for one purpose: destruction. The two fleets met in the space between stars. For a moment, both sides simply watched each other, thousands of ships facing each other in the cold darkness. Then Admiral Sora gave the order. "All ships engage." The battle began like a storm. Human ships surged forward, their weapons blazing. The returned fire, their purple beams cutting through space. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships on both sides were destroyed. But something strange happened. The humans did not fight like the expected. They did not form neat lines and exchange fire from a distance. Instead, they swarmed. They attacked from every angle. They sacrificed their own ships to get close to the enemy, and when they got close, they unleashed weapons that they had never seen. "What are those?" shouted as a group of human ships attached themselves to one of his cruisers. "Commander, they are boarding us. The humans are boarding our ships." Could not believe it. Boarding was an ancient tactic used by primitive species who did not have proper weapons. No civilized fleet had used it in centuries, but the humans did not care about being civilized. They cared about winning. On one of the cruisers, human marines stormed through the corridors. They wore heavy armor and carried powerful weapons. They moved fast and hit hard. The crew tried to fight back, but they were not prepared for close combat. Sergeant Boram led her squad through the enemy ship. She had lost her brother on 7. He had been a teacher at the colony school. He had died trying to protect his students. Now, Boram was here for revenge. "Clear every room," she ordered. "Take no prisoners." Her squad moved like ghosts, silent and deadly. They cleared the engineering deck, the weapons bay, and the command center. Within an hour, they had taken the entire ship. "Admiral, we have captured the enemy cruiser," Boram reported, turning its weapons on the enemy fleet now. All across the battlefield, similar stories played out. Human marines boarded enemy ships and turned them against their own fleet. Human pilots flew suicide runs into enemy carriers. Human captains rammed their damaged ships into enemy command vessels. Fleet commander watched his fleet fall apart. Ships exploded around him. His officers screamed in panic. The humans were everywhere, attacking from every direction, showing no fear and no mercy. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships retreat to the—" But it was too late. The human fleet had surrounded them. There was nowhere to run. Admiral Sora watched as the fleet collapsed. She felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a cold determination to finish what she had started. "Admiral," her officer reported, "the enemy fleet is destroyed. We have won." "No," Sora replied. "We have not won yet. Set course for 7. Our people are still waiting." The remains of the human fleet, still over 2,000 ships, turned toward the occupied colony. Behind them, the wreckage of the fleet drifted in space, a reminder of what happened when you made humanity your enemy. The Emperor received the news of the defeat. His greatest fleet destroyed in a single battle, his best commander killed when his flagship exploded. The humans were coming, and there was nothing left to stop them. For the first time in his long life, the Emperor felt true fear. He had awakened something terrible, something that could not be stopped. And now that something was coming for him. The human fleet arrived at 7 like an angry god descending from the heavens. The occupation force looked up at the sky and saw death staring back at them. 2,000 warships blocked out the stars, their weapons aimed at the planet below. Admiral Sora broadcast a message to the forces. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of thunder. "This is Admiral Sora of the United Earth Fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender. Release all human prisoners and lay down your weapons. If you refuse, we will destroy you. There will be no second warning." The commander on the ground was a young officer named. He had been left behind while the main fleet went to fight the humans. He had thought it would be an easy assignment. Guard some ruins and wait for orders. Now, he stared at the massive fleet above and felt his legs shake. "What do we do?" his lieutenant asked. Wanted to surrender. Every part of his body screamed at him to give up, but he was afraid of what the Emperor would do to him if he did. "We fight," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "We have no choice." It was the worst decision of his life. The human assault began with a rain of fire from the sky. Missiles and energy beams struck the positions with perfect accuracy. The aliens had built their base in the ruins of the colony they had destroyed. Now, those ruins became their graves. Then the dropships came. Hundreds of them fell from the fleet like metal seeds, carrying thousands of human soldiers. They landed all around the city, surrounding the enemy completely. Ho stood at the entrance to the underground shelter, watching the sky fill with human ships. He felt tears run down his face. After all this time, after all the pain, his people had come. "They are here," he said to who stood beside him. "They actually came." Smiled, "Did you ever doubt?" "Never." She handed him a fresh weapon. "Then let us go help them." Ho led the survivors out of the shelter, 40 soldiers and 200 civilians who had learned to fight. They emerged into the sunlight like ghosts returning from the dead. They had forgotten about them. That was a mistake. The battle for 7 was brutal but short. The humans attacked with a fury that shocked even their own commanders. They had seen what they did to the colony. They had seen the mass graves, the burned buildings, the toys scattered among the rubble. Every soldier carried that rage in their heart. Sergeant Bahram led her squad through the streets where children had once played. She found a soldier hiding in a destroyed school. He raised his hands in surrender, begging for mercy in his alien language. Bahram thought of her brother. She thought of the students he had tried to protect. She raised her weapon. "Mercy," she said. "Did you show mercy?" She pulled the trigger. Ho fought alongside the Marine units, showing them the hidden paths he had discovered during the occupation. He led them to the command center, a fortified building in the center of the city. "The commander is inside," Ho said. "He ordered the execution of prisoners last week, 20 people. He made us watch." The Marine captain nodded. "We will handle this. You have done enough, soldier." "No," Ho replied. "I need to see this through for them." They stormed the building together. The guards fought hard, but they could not stop the human tide. Room by room, floor by floor, the humans advanced until they reached the command center. Stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his last soldiers. He knew it was over. He could hear the gunfire getting closer, the screams of his men dying one by one. "Commander," one of his officers said, "we should surrender. Maybe they will spare us." Laughed bitterly. "The humans do not spare. I have seen how they fight. They are demons, monsters." The door exploded inward. Human soldiers poured into the room, their weapons blazing. The last guards fell in seconds, dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Ho walked through the smoke and stood before the alien commander. He looked at the creature who had brought so much suffering to his world. He wanted to kill him. Every fiber of his being screamed for revenge. But he did not pull the trigger. Instead, he lowered his weapon. "You will live," Ho said. "Not because you deserve it, but because you will tell your people what happened here. You will tell them what happens when you attack humanity. You will carry that message for the rest of your miserable life." Fell to his knees, sobbing. the mighty brought low by the species they had called weak. While the battle raged above had been preparing the medical center for casualties. When the fighting ended, she rushed out to help the wounded. Human and alike, she treated everyone who needed care. A young Marine looked at her strangely as she bandaged a wounded alien. "Why are you helping him?" he asked. "They killed our people." Finished the bandage and stood up. "Because we are not like them. We fight when we must. We kill when we must. But we do not lose our humanity. That is what makes us different. That is what makes us stronger." The Marine thought about her words for a long time. Admiral Sora landed on the planet after the battle was won. She walked through the ruined streets, seeing the destruction for herself. She visited the mass graves where thousands of colonists were buried. She stood in silence for a long time, her head bowed. Captain approached her and saluted. "Admiral, the planet is secure. All enemy forces have been captured or eliminated." Sora nodded. "Casualties?" "We lost 300 soldiers in the ground assault. Another 500 were wounded, but we rescued 280 survivors from the shelters." 280, Sora repeated, "out of a colony of 10,000. His voice was heavy. "Yes, Admiral." Sora turned to look at the sky where her fleet waited in orbit. There was only a few days away. She could be there within a week. She could destroy their cities, kill their people, make them feel the same pain they had caused. She could, but she would not. "Send a message to the Emperor," she ordered. "Tell him I want to negotiate. The war can end here or it can continue. The choice is his." "Admiral," said carefully, "many of our people want revenge. They want us to destroy them completely." Sora looked at the doctor, who was still treating the wounded in the distance. She thought about what made humans different from what made them stronger. "We are not them," she said. "We fight for justice, not revenge. They will pay for what they did, but we will not become monsters to punish monsters. That is not who we are." She walked away, leaving to carry out her orders. The battle was over, but the true test was just beginning. The galaxy was watching, and what humanity did next would define them for generations to come. Emperor sat alone in his throne room, surrounded by shadows and silence. His empire was crumbling. His fleet was destroyed. His armies were scattered. The humans had beaten him in every battle, and now they were waiting at his doorstep. His advisors had fled. His generals had surrendered. Even his own family had abandoned him, escaping to distant worlds where they hoped the humans would not find them. Only remained, too proud and too afraid to run. When the message came from Admiral Sora, he read it 100 times. She offered him a choice: surrender and face justice, or fight and watch his burn. The humans had the power to destroy everything. Every city, every building, every living thing on his planet. And after what he had done, no one would blame them. Thought about the attack on 7. He had ordered it himself. He had watched the recordings of the destruction and felt pride. He had laughed at the humans crying over their dead. He had called them weak and pathetic. Now he understood the truth. The humans were not weak. They had simply chosen not to be cruel. They had built their civilization on cooperation and kindness, not conquest and domination. But when pushed, when their family was threatened, they became something terrifying, something unstoppable. Made his decision. He sent a message to the human fleet. "I surrender. What are your terms?" Admiral Sora met Emperor on neutral ground, a space station at the edge of territory. She brought only a small escort, showing no fear, brought nothing but his shame. They sat across from each other in a bare room. 2 leaders, 2 species, one moment that would shape the future. "Your fleet is destroyed," Sora began. "Your empire is broken. I could take you today if I chose, but I am not here to destroy you." Looked at her with confusion. "Then why are you here?" "To end this, to make sure it never happens again." Sora placed a document on the table between them. It contained the terms of surrender. that would pay for the reconstruction of 7. They would return all human prisoners. They would stand trial for war crimes. And they would broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "What message?" asked. Sora leaned forward, her eyes hard as steel. "A warning. You will tell every species in the galaxy what happened here. You will show them the footage of the battle. You will tell them exactly what happens when you attack humanity." Read the document slowly. The terms were harsh but fair. The humans could have demanded much more. They could have taken his world, enslaved his people, erased his species from existence. Instead, they offered him a path to survival. "Why?" he asked. "Why not destroy us? We killed your people, your children, we showed no mercy." Sora was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Because we are not you. We fight to protect our family, not to conquer others. We kill when we must, not because we enjoy it. If we destroyed we would become the very thing we hate, and I will not let that happen." Sign the document. The war was over. The broadcast went out to every corner of the galaxy. Every species, every planet, every station received it. They watched as Emperor spoke, his voice broken and defeated. "I speak to all species of the galaxy. The Empire attacked the human colony of 7 without warning. We killed 10,000 innocent people. We thought the humans were weak. We were wrong." The footage played. The human fleet emerging from hyperspace. The battle that destroyed the Armada. The liberation of 7. The human soldiers fighting with a fury that shook the stars. "The humans showed us what they truly are," continued. "They are not weak. They are not soft. They are warriors beyond anything we have ever seen, but they are also merciful. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they chose peace. I do not understand them, but I respect them. And I warn every species watching this, never attack the humans. Never threaten their family. If you do, you will face their wrath, and survival is impossible." The message ended. Silence fell across the galaxy. On 100 different worlds, leaders and generals watched the broadcast with new eyes. They had all thought the humans were easy prey. Small, weak, fragile creatures who had somehow spread across the stars. Now they knew the truth. Ambassador of the spoke to his council. "I told you before and I tell you again, the humans are not like us. They do not fight for territory or power. They fight for each other. Every human everywhere is connected by a bond we cannot understand. Hurt one and you hurt them all. They learned this lesson the hard way. Let us not repeat their mistake." The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss the implications of the human victory. After days of debate, they reached a decision. "The human species is hereby granted protected status," the Council declared. "Any attack on human territory or citizens will be considered an attack on the Council itself. Let this serve as a warning to all who would threaten the peace." On 7, the survivors began to rebuild. Ships from Earth brought supplies, workers, and hope. The ruins were cleared. New buildings rose from the ashes. Life returned to the colony, slowly but surely. Ho stood on the balcony where he had once drunk his morning coffee. The view was different now. The beautiful city he had known was gone, replaced by construction sites and temporary shelters. But there was something new in the air, something that had not been there before. Hope came to stand beside him. She was tired from months of treating the wounded, but her eyes were bright. "They say the first families will arrive next week," she said. "New colonists from Earth. Young couples, children, elderly people looking for a fresh start." Ho smiled. "This place will live again." "Yes, it will." Captain approached them with a message in her hand. "Admiral Sora is leaving tomorrow. She wanted to say goodbye." They met the Admiral at the spaceport. She looked older than when she had arrived, the weight of the war showing in her eyes. But she stood tall and proud, the hero who had saved humanity. "Thank you," Ho said, saluting her, "for everything." Sora returned the salute. Thank you for holding on. If you had given up, we would have had nothing to fight for. Stepped forward and did something unexpected. She hugged the Admiral tightly. Sora, the legendary warrior who had never shown emotion, hugged her back. Take care of each other, Sora said. That is all any of us can do. She boarded her shuttle and flew up to her fleet. Within hours, the human armada was gone, returning to Earth and the dozens of colonies they had left behind. Their mission was complete. But the warning remained. It echoed across the galaxy, passed from species to species, generation to generation. A simple message that changed everything. Never assault the humans, face their wrath. Survival is impossible. Years later, Ho stood in the center of New City. The colony had grown beyond anything he had imagined. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Children played in the parks. Traders sold their goods in busy markets. Life had not just returned, it had flourished. He was an old man now, his hair gray and his body worn. But his eyes still held the same fire they had on that terrible day so long ago. A young student approached him, a recorder in hand. Commander Ho, you are one of the last survivors of the original attack. What message do you have for future generations? Ho thought for a long moment. He thought about the friends he had lost, the horrors he had witnessed, the strength he had found. Remember who we are, he finally said. We are humans. We are kind and gentle, creative and curious. We build rather than destroy. We heal rather than harm, but never mistake our kindness for weakness. Because when you threaten our family, when you hurt our people, we become something else, something that cannot be stopped. He looked up at the stars, where countless species watched and waited. So let us live in peace. Let us build together, learn together, grow together, but never forget the warning. Never forget what we are capable of, because we will protect our family, always and forever, no matter the cost. The young student nodded and walked away, carrying the message to the next generation. And across the galaxy, in quiet rooms and busy halls, the warning continued to echo. Never assault the humans. Face their wrath. Survival is impossible.